What's in a name? Names. We all have them. Now, some parents think long and hard about the names they give to their children. Some choose a name because someone is famous or because of a royal person or a celebrity. Some choose a name because it's in the family and has been passed down for generations. Some choose a name because of its meaning, or they pick one because it's trendy or cute. And so we end up with names like Tommy Hawk, or Summer Breeze, or Crispy Bacon, or Samsung. Now, in ancient times, names were given often to denote character or something connected with the birth. Moses named his first son Gershom, stating, "I have become an alien in a foreign land." Gershom sounds like the Hebrew for an alien there. Moses got his name because Pharaoh's daughter drew him out of the water, and Moses sounds like the Hebrew meaning draw out. Sometimes people were told by God to give their give their child a specific name. When God reaffirmed his promise of a son to Abraham, we read, Abraham fell face down. He laughed and said to himself, "Will a son be born to a man 100 years old? Will Sarah bear a child at the age of 90? Now, Abraham found the thought of this rather amusing. He laughed about it. And so God told Abraham, "Your wife Sarah will bear you a son, and you will call him Isaac." Isaac means he laughs. Names convey information about a person. Names have power. As a young teen, I worked for various farmers near our place. I was given work because of my parents' names. When I told someone I was the son of Albert and Jessie Robb, they took a chance on me because they knew my parents were hardworking, honest, Christian people. One of the subjects I taught at school was cooperative education, a type of work placement subject. Students would spend most of the semester at a job site working for an employer. They'd work in a career field they were hoping to pursue. Now, the students were required to find their own placements and were given help and suggestions when needed. I discovered that many students were able to find co-ops because of their parents. Their parents knew someone in that field, or they knew someone from their church. Other times, I had employers asking me for co-op students because our students had a good name in the community, a good reputation. In fact, I recall one woman who operated Christian preschool, and she told me several times that our students were what she called a cut above those from other schools. And because of that, because of the example that they gave, she and her husband investigated our school and, in fact, decided to send their daughters there. Names are important. One day, Moses was out tending his father-in-law's sheep near Mount Horeb, also called Mount Sinai, and as the sheep were grazing, Moses noticed a bush on fire. Now, that in itself probably wasn't so unusual, but as he watched the bush, it kept burning and did not burn up. Well, Moses had to check this out more closely. What would cause a bush to burn and not be consumed? So Moses walked over toward the bush, and then he got the shock of his life. The bush spoke to him. Weird, terrifying, intriguing. Now, I probably would have run or freaked out in some manner, but Moses seemed to just stand there, rooted to the ground, and responded, "Here I am." Then he was ordered to remove his sandals, and the voice from the bush said, "I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." Now that seemed to freak out Moses because he hid his face. Then God proceeded to tell Moses that he had heard the cries of help, cries for deliverance from the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the Israelites. And he had chosen Moses to be the one who would bring them to freedom. That's when Moses seemed to find his voice and come up with a number of excuses. But in the midst of this conversation with God, Moses learns God's name. Not just God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but his name, his personal name. Moses asks God his name. He suggests that when he appears in Egypt, when God sent him, saying the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob would not do the job. The Israelites would not be satisfied with that statement. They would want to know God's name, or want to know that Moses knew it at least. Remember, the Hebrews were slaves of the Egyptians, and the Egyptians had many gods. I mean, there was Osiris, the god of life and judge of the dead, connected with worship of the Nile. There was Heket, goddess of childbirth, represented by a frog-headed idol. Set, god of storm. Min, god of fertility. Amun-Ra, god of the sun. Nechbed, the protector of Pharaoh, and many others. And so it would not be unusual for the Israelites to ask Moses, what was the name of this God who had sent him? Well, God responds. He says, I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent you. Then in the next verse, God tells Moses, say to the Israelites, the Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has sent me to you. The name Lord, written in all capitals in English Bibles, is the name Yahweh and is derived from the same root as I am. In this passage, it seems to be used interchangeably with I am. Now, Yahweh is used over 6,800 times in the Old Testament, far more than any other name for God. Today, Jews will not say that name because they believe his name is too holy to speak, and they do not want to be guilty of taking God's name in vain, breaking the third commandment. And so when reading the Hebrew, they automatically substitute Adonai, or sometimes they may refer to God as Hashem, which is Hebrew for the name. Of course, this practice developed long after the time of Moses. So here, when Moses asks God his name, God says, I am that I am, or in Hebrew, Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh. Now, one of the very interesting things about this is that Hebrew doesn't have verb tenses like we do in English. So past, present, or future tense is determined more by context. So when God says, Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh, it could be translated, I am that I am, I will be that I will be, or even I was that I was. God's name speaks to us about who he is. He is the God of the past, the present, and the future. He is eternal. God's name tells us that God is the Lord of history. There has never been a time when God has not been. Nothing has happened that God has not seen. When Moses told the people God's name, God, by his very name, was reminding the people that he has always been there, that he has always been with them. Their suffering and slavery was not hidden from him. In fact, he had told Abraham that his descendants would live in Egypt. God knew they would be slaves. He never left them, though many of them may have left God. God's very name tells them that the Lord was present and active and leading Abraham. God revealed himself to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, their forefathers. He revealed himself as El Shaddai, the Almighty, as Elyon, the Lord Most High, as Yahweh Yireh, the Lord who provides. God was telling the Hebrew people he was present, leading, providing, and defeating their enemies. And when we hear the name of the Lord, the I was, the I am, the I will be, Yahweh, we can be sure he has seen all our days. Nothing has taken him by surprise. Nothing has thwarted his purposes. We are alive because the Lord has sustained us. We have prospered because he has provided. When we suffered, he was there, touched by the feelings of our infirmities. He was there, sending his Son, Jesus Christ, who was taking upon himself the awful curse of our sin. Through Christ, he was providing for our salvation. He was there, holding us fast, showing us mercy, though we didn't deserve it. So whatever you or I have been through, God has been there with us, watching, guiding, helping, loving. God is the Lord of history, but he is also the Lord of the present. See, not only was God present when we were born, not only was he guiding and providing in past times, but he is present now. He is the great I am. Some people think of God as a creator who made this universe and then kind of watches from afar, letting things play out without being involved. They compare God to maybe a watchmaker who makes a watch, winds it up, and then sets it running, but doesn't get involved. Years ago, Bette Midler had a hit song, From a Distance, in which she sang, God is watching us from a distance. She was wrong. God isn't distant. He's right up close, intimately involved in our lives, or desiring to be if we will let him. God is the Lord of the now. He is very much present and active. He hears and answers our prayers and cries right now, today. He is the one who says, come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. He is the one telling us that we have a high priest who has been through the testing and temptations that we face but didn't sin. And so he understands our situation. He knows what it's like to face the struggles of life. And therefore, let us approach the throne of grace with confidence so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. Jesus demonstrated this very clearly. He didn't keep himself aloof from people. He was right there with them, teaching them, listening to them, helping them, caring for them, laughing with them, crying with them. He was criticized for eating with the lowlifes of society, but pointed out that it was the sick and the needy that needed a doctor, that needed someone. Today, God, through his Holy Spirit, is with us. And so Paul writes in Romans 8:26, in the same way, the Spirit helps us in our weakness. We do not know what we ought to pray for, but the Spirit himself intercedes for us through wordless groans. The great I am is Lord of today, so let us trust him. But he is also Lord of the future. Do you ever wonder about the future? Do you ever worry about it? Probably. You worry if your health will give out. As you face transitions or changes in life, do you wonder, am I going to be okay? I retired at the end of this past school year, but things didn't really kick in until this month. Every once in a while, questions about retirement would pop into my mind, usually about finances. Things like, will my pension actually come through? Will it be enough? But whenever those worries would come, God would remind me that he was always with me in the past, that he had always provided, and that the future is in his hands as well. We don't know what the future holds, but we know who holds the future. As the song says, many things about tomorrow I don't seem to understand, but I know who holds tomorrow, and I know who holds my hand. As followers of Christ, we don't have to worry. Jesus conquered death, so we can live in confidence and hope. We don't need to fear the future. And that's why Paul could write when sitting in a Roman prison, not knowing whether he would live or die, "For to me to live is Christ, but to die is gain." Our neighbor Jean died a little over a week ago. She had battled cancer, but never complained, never spoke fearfully. She knew the Lord held her in his care. And at her funeral, the pastor, who was also dealing with terminal cancer, reminded us of Paul's words in 2 Corinthians 5, where he compares living on earth to living in a tent. Now, many of us enjoy camping for a little while, but we're always glad to return home. I recall our first camping trip. We borrowed an old canvas tent from friends. We changed locations each day, and it seemed to rain most nights, and the tent leaked. Now we had fun, but we certainly didn't want to live like that for very long. As a sign I saw this summer said, camping is nature's way of promoting the motel business. The heavenly home Jesus has gone to prepare for you and me is so much better than anything we could have on earth. As Paul writes, no eye has seen, no ear has heard, no mind has conceived what God has prepared for those who love him. That's why when Jesus told his disciples and us that he was going to prepare a place for them, he prefaced it with these words: "Do not let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God. Trust also in me." It's the reason he said, "Peace I leave with you. My peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." And one of the last things he said to his disciples before going to Gethsemane, where he would be arrested, were these words of hope and promise: "I've told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world." Friends, we don't have to fear COVID or cancer or cardiac arrest because our future is in God's hands. We will have trouble, but Jesus has already conquered the greatest enemy, death. So whatever your future holds, know that God is Lord of tomorrow. As Christians, we will be kept by his power and grace, and his grace is sufficient for whatever comes our way. So what's in a name? Well, when it comes to the name of our God, I am that I am, Ehyeh, Asher Ehyeh, or Yahweh, there's a lot. His name tells us he is Lord of our past. He has always been. He has loved us from the very beginning, and nothing we have done has caused him to stop loving us. He is Lord of our present. He is with us right now. He desires to guide us right now. He wants to comfort us right now. He invites us to come to him right now. He's never too busy for us. And he is Lord of our future. Nothing will surprise him, so he can provide all that we need, materially, emotionally, physically, spiritually, when we need it. We can face tomorrow with peace and hope and confidence when we trust in the great I am. May God bless you.